effective. Today we're doing emotional intelligence for the modern leader. I believe it was the only book on the level part A of the level 3 exam that changed. There was a emotional intelligence book. It just was a scientific breakdown and a little difficult to read and understand, so we found a different one. As y'all are aware, as of January 1st, the exams for level 3 have changed. Mostly level 2. We didn't touch part C. That part's exactly the way it's not always been for the last couple of years. Part B has been almost all reworked, and this is the only material we changed on part A. So you should be ready. Like I said, I'm not sure if you could squeak by these questions, having read the old emotional intelligence book and not the new one, but you could give it a try. Somebody is labeled court, and I need to know who that is, because I can't take attendance. I don't know who you are.
Tamara Grossolia.
Let me find it. Gotcha. All right.
I'm inside of a police department, so
that's fine.
I might have to run out and then run right back in because I have to work the front desk.
All right. Let me let Mitch Curry in. Everybody's popping in a little bit of time. Then I'm going to start telling you guys what the rules are. Okay, let's get Mitch kidding. All right, here's how virtual works, as you're well aware, if you've been here before. You have to stay audio and visual the whole entire time, if at all possible. This is a participatory session, not a lecture. I'm not lecturing you. We're going to talk about the questions. I might give you a few hints on what page they might be on, or I think they're on. But books are like life. I mean, your interpretation may be a little different than mine. So we're just going to kind of do like a book club, like a normal everyday, hey, this is a book club, to help you guys understand the materials and move on through this session.
This has been a last minute thing for me, so I don't have the book.
Oh, okay.
So I'm just gonna have to make notes.
Please, and if you join another book club, please read the material so you can help those who are going to help you today. So they're going to impart their wisdom on you, so only fair that you pay them back next time. As I said, we're going to do that. The next one I'm going to do is an old book, but it's a book that I screwed up the recording on the first time I did it. We know I recorded it. We do not know where in the cyber world it went. So I have to do it over. They can tell I recorded it, but they don't know where I put it. So supposedly this one I'm not supposed to do anything with, and it's just supposed to go where it's supposed to go. So Zoom is my least favorite thing in the world. It works for these purposes, but I don't touch any of the buttons. So that's how that works. But you have to stay audio visual. You have to finish for credit. You have to finish the whole thing. It's an hour and a half. You have to participate. Even if you haven't read the materials, at least ask questions or try to understand tell us what your take on things like emotional intelligence will be. But let's start off really quickly because the exams changed. Does anybody have any exam related questions? You're muted.
I'm sure I will eventually, but again, this is a last minute decision. I've been at level 2 since 2012.
Oh, it's time to move on.
And I work at a police department, but there's a lot of controversy, and I've been helping out with court, and I miss it. And my chief is good with me going ahead and getting my level 3.
Even if jump off the fence and let's go for it.
Yeah. So anyway, I haven't had a chance to really do a lot of research recently.
How many of you are attending the assessment clinic next week? The level 3 assessment clinic that's next week? No, it is a requirement to attend the level 3 assessment clinic before you can get level 3 certified. So if you haven't attended, you're going to have to attend before you can get certification. It's only run once a year in January. So if you're missing it this January and you haven't had it before, you're going to have to take it next January. So don't overlook that. One, it's also very helpful. I mean, it's all level 3s. Yay. Good. You're there. I'll be there. So it's a very helpful session. It's more leadership and personal oriented than law oriented. I'm teaching 2 classes called Walk the Walk and Talk the Talk. Some professionalism classes and some communication classes. So I said she suggests you take the class before you test. You can. It just depends on where you can fit it in. I'd hate for anybody to wait till next January to test, but if you could take the class next week, you'd be happy about that. But they talk about some of the books, so things will happen and make it easier for you. But all right, so I have taken it to, oh good, Mitch will be there. You guys will be so sick of me by next week. And I'm proctoring that exam and y'all will be like, oh my God, there she still is. So if you haven't been around this field, well, you should be. You're level threes. I'm everywhere, so you're stuck with me. And Mitch, your background's pretty interesting.
Thanks.
I feel like I need to go somewhere. Just put me in there. So what we're gonna do, as I said, it's this book right here. So if you have the old emotional intelligent book, you got the wrong book. You have the old questions, you have the wrong questions. The new ones are on TMCC and TCCA. And what we're gonna do is I'll start off by reading the questions or trying to help you. Remember, I have access to the exam questions, so kind of pay attention. Actually, I wrote some of them, so that helps. I won't give you the exam questions, but just be aware that I will, in our studying, will head in the right directions. So the first question is, anybody, how does the Institute of Health and Human Potential define emotional intelligence? That's an easy one.
Person's ability and reason to think.
Yeah, I mean, it's like recognize, understand, and manage your emotions, recognize and understand and influence that your emotions have on others, and be aware that emotions drive behavior. It's on page 13 of the book. And let's be honest, you got to understand, and we were talking about this a minute ago when I said it's very difficult because we work in offices full of females. Emotions drive your office. That's just life. Emotions drive life. So I need those of you who are not visible, which is Dangerfield, B. Vindel, and E. Rodriguez, you have to be visible. That's part of the rules in order to get credit. So if you guys can turn your cameras on, that will be very helpful. So to be honest, this is a lot of common sense. I mean, your office is guided on the emotions of your people, not just yours, the people on the other side of the window also, the community. I'm a licensed social worker, so this stuff is real easy for me. Dangerfield, I'll allow you to participate, but you can't get credit if you're not visible, but you can participate if you'd like. So anyway, that's what it is. It's to recognize and understand that emotions drive the world. You know, how many of you get to the day and before it's even like 8:30, you're going, oh, like, this is a day. This is the day. And so you know that the emotions have driven the world. The camera, Christy, yeah, I can see you, Christy. I saw you earlier. So emotions do drive the world. So that's as we talk about that, we're going to talk about your emotional intelligence, which means your ability to handle the facts that emotions drive your world. You know, there's a lot of times, yes, I can. Thank you, Rodrigo. A lot of times when I'm in a day and I'm thinking, oh my God, everybody's hateful today. I have to sit back in my chair and go, wait a minute, what's the common denominator here? If every single person I see at the moment is being hateful, maybe it's not them. Maybe it's me as the common denominator at that point. Maybe not every time I pick up the phone, someone's yelling at me. It might not be them. That's the problem. So yeah, I have done Enneagram. So anyway, that's what the first one is. The first one's on page 13, and that's all it is. So list the 5 pillars. Is anybody the 5 pillars of emotional intelligence? What are they? What makes up emotional intelligence?
So it'll be self-awareness, self-management, motivation, empathy, and social skills.
Perfect. She said self-awareness, self-management, motivation, empathy, and social skills. Those are your pillars. That's what makes up your emotional intelligence. One, you got to know yourself. Once you know it, you got to be able to manage it. And what's your why? Where does your motivation come from? What makes you function? And then empathy. It's funny because especially a lot of the older court people and a lot of the older justices don't understand that courts are now more empathetic than they've ever been in the past. I had an elderly judge at one point who's passed, but I was talking to him one day about customer service and everything, and he's like, honey, this ain't no Walmart. It's like, I understand it's not a Walmart, but it's different now, and courts are learning to be empathetic and care and understand. And then social skills. How many of you've ever, as a boss or even as a team player, coworker, had to work with somebody who had absolutely no social skills? It's just hard. It's so hard. So those are the things that make up an emotionally intelligent person. You have to have that combination of skills rolled up. Number 69 is, why is self-awareness so difficult to master?
It's about knowing yourself and having to dig deep, and that's just hard. It's easier to analyze somebody else's yourself.
That's exactly it. It's very hard to look in instead of out. Very hard. If, like I said, there's always times when you want to think it wasn't you, it was somebody else. And then you finally realize there's a common denominator to this picture and it's me. So yeah, that's why it's so difficult, because you have to be willing to go deep enough to say, okay, where am I creating a problem? Like I have someone on my staff that I hired from a friend from another court who was having difficulties with this person. She's like, you are going to be so sorry. We do well, because it was like, okay, I'm going to meet her. We're going to figure it out. And every time I see this other clerk, she's like, I can't believe you can do it. It's like, because I had to look and see what parts of me she needed, and to see what parts of me I could help to make her successful. So I did it on purpose at the time because I wanted to prove something. But so that's why it's hard, because you have to look at where you are coming from. I have, those of you know, I love to make you guys grow. But sometimes I have to look and see what my motivation is there. I have all these little chicks that it's like, oh, those are my people. So, all right, and we want to do next question. 3 types of empathy.
Emotional, compassionate, and cognitive.
Perfect, page 31. I love having you on these things, Rosie. You are always so prepared. A cognitive is meaning that we take the time to understand how somebody feels. Cognitive, is understanding. It's a brain thing. It's like, okay, cognition, understanding. So cognitive empathy is where you just take the time to understand how somebody feels. We have some people, of course, we deal with not the most straightest of people, but sometimes you have to kick back and think, I wonder what it feels like to be them. Especially this week with the freeze. A lot of us, a lot of times I'm thinking, oh, I wonder where this person is, and I wonder where that person is. And I'm like, oh, I wonder if they have blankets. And, because we deal with people that you worry about. We have a woman that lives in our parking lot. She's lived there forever. But she's not there right now because she crashed the car she was living in and she's in the hospital. But it's like, I hope she's warm. I hope when she gets out of the hospital, she has blankets. So it's that kind of feeling. Other than as a defendant in my court, I don't know this woman, other than she lives in my parking lot. But where better to live as a single woman in a parking lot in the police department. Nobody's going to bother you. So, and then we have compassion, and this is even more hard and more deep. Compassionate empathy stirs emotion and makes you really want to help others. Do we do this out of need to help? Many of us do. Many of us don't, depending on, especially if you're in a huge environment. I think some people become robotic and more like just process papers. But if you're in a smaller environment where you actually get to visit with and talk with people, you do some of it out of compassion. Some of it you get tired of, because let's be realistic, our people are very manipulative. Never fails that somebody who first starts, somebody said they had 3 people starting freelancing. They feel sorry for everyone when they first start. And you're sitting back laughing, going, how long is that going to last?
Right.
And in about 2 months in, you're going, yep, you finally got real. You got tired of getting lied to. So it's okay to have compassionate empathy, but with our job, you have to have a little realism. There was a Facebook thing going around months ago that said in 3 words, tell us what you do for a living. And I put get lied to.
That's funny you said that because, we have, I think I had a conversation with a clerk earlier this week where they're just like, how can they do that? I've got to go and verify insurance, and they just keep turning in stuff that's just wrong. And why do they do that? And you can get easily wrapped up in that.
Yes.
And that, and you've got to learn how to be able to detach yourself from the situation and not take it personal. You're going to do everything you can to help that person, but it's so difficult when if you put in that emotion or too much, if you dip in too
Yes,
much
agreed.
of yourself into that.
Perfect. And I tell my staff a lot of times, you don't understand, these people work on coping skills that they've developed to get them through life. And those unfortunately are the coping skills they develop to learn to get through life. Lie, cheat, steal, manipulate, because that's what they've learned works for them. And it's very difficult. They don't trust you any more than you trust them. And I have to remind people of that all the time. You think they're good, that they, know that you're going to tell them the truth and not steer them wrong. No, they don't. They've been screwed over by so many people. They're not going to trust you anymore than they're going to trust anyone else. So I think we have to remember that. Okay, emotional. You can take on and absorb the emotions of someone else and experience them for yourself. I'm not sure that one's all that healthy. Not with our people. You don't feel their pain. Understand their pain and have compassion for their pain, but I don't think we need to feel their pain. Depending on what, what's going on.
Maybe the difference in empathy and sympathy.
Yes, perfect answer. Yeah, I don't have a lot of sympathy. I have a lot of empathy. I do have a lot of there, but for the grace of God go I. If we all look at this, some of these people just made stupid mistakes somewhere in life that turned them in a direction they couldn't figure out how to get out of. And I could have easily done that.
Sometimes
So
it has to be
many.
sympathy because you can't probably empathize with the lady that lives in your parking lot because you've probably never lived in your car in a parking lot. So you just have to kind of assume the best because it's just hard to know where they are because you haven't lived where they are.
We have tried to help her so much, but there's some mental illness, so she won't let anybody, we always trying to give her takeaway bags from lunch and dinner and stuff, but she won't take any of it. So, but yeah, good job, guys. Okay, define servant leadership. I love that word. I just like that saying, servant leadership.
I think that's in our city's motto as well, but it's really just serving others, putting them before you for any priorities. It's above everything else. It's them, someone else. And you're just leading with your heart.
I agree. Thank you. This isn't just a job. I mean, there are some people do it that way, but they're the ones who are miserable most of the time. And anybody that's probably on here and wants to increase their knowledge and education, this is not just a job. And there are some of us that have been doing this a very long time on this screen, and we still get to the point where it's not just a job. I see somebody new every day, which is, I think, what I like about this job the most. It's like, but I don't get jaded like, oh God, here comes another one of those kind of things. It's like, let's see what we can get from this person. I learned something from everybody. Good, that's on page 31 also. Uh-oh, this one should be easy. What are some examples of poor leadership? Those are always the easy ones. It's easier to say what's bad than good.
The lack of accountability, I before we, taking all the credit, negative attitude, operating from a position of fear, overbearing, exerting far too much, controlling situations where it's unnecessary, and close to feedback.
And there's one more that I think is extremely important. No investment in employees' personal and professional development. And I hope this isn't what you guys are going through. Oh, here's Sylvia. Come on in, Sylvia. I have worked with people doing level 3 that have to take vacation to go to classes. They have to pay for their own travel. But they want it bad enough that they do it. That makes me sad. But I'm so proud of them when they have to do it on their own. I've had people come do observation here that had to take vacation to do it. It's like, wow, my city is so accepting of wanting to learn. I'm so fortunate. So we have
Can you
really good tuition programs and they can go to anything they want to go to. And so feel yourself fortunate if you have that, because there are people that do not. We have people that have to take vacation to go to TMCC classes. It's crazy, crazy. So look at those examples that she just gave. It's on page 51 of poor leadership. Does anybody have any examples? Another big one I think we've all suffered through sometime in the past is somebody who takes credit for everything, but the blame for nothing. I've worked for those kind of people before. That's tough. It's like you're so afraid to mess up because you know they're going to blame you, but you don't care if you do good or not because you know they're not going to tell anybody you did it. So those are people. Sylvia, if we can get you on camera, that would be great. Let me see. We got some chats. Let me read them. I don't have a moderator, so.
I have one that I had previously. When a clerk has a good idea and the leader is not taking that as into consideration and actually make it work better for some of the clerks.
See, that's real sad. That's somebody who's closed to feedback or cynical minded or won't make changes.
That's
I
a
think
big
it's
one.
closed to feedback.
Yeah.
Closed to feedback or ideas.
Mhm.
Yeah, that
I
can
am
really
all for
stunt
making
progress.
things. Yeah, it's like
My
make
way or
this-
the highway.
That's crazy to me. They get one. I don't understand why people put that much pressure on themselves. I don't want to do everything. I don't want to do it. I need to know how you do it. So if you're not here, I can help you. But I don't know. That would make my life miserable if I had to do all your work. That's not my job. My job is to get you to do your work. So, I mean, we do task rotations every 3 months, but I usually send an email out and I ask them 3 things. What tasks do you do that you absolutely hate and hope I never ask you to do again? What one do you love and hope I always let you do? And what ones don't you care if you do or not? And then I try to take that list and make sure they don't get what they hate. Get at least one thing they love, and the rest I just divide. Yeah, I don't, if you got an easier way to do it, good for you. Yeah, I just tell them, what do you want to do? Like last night I had to work court, which I don't do all the time. It's like, where you guys want me? It's your ball game. Where do I need to go so I'm not stepping on everybody's toes? Because I have a tendency to do that. It's like, get on my way, let me just do it. So I just try to step back. But those are great examples. Taking the credit, lack of accountability. That drives me crazy in staff and bosses. I've had some bad bosses. Right now I have a great boss. I see her about once every 6 months. If I need her, she's here, but. Okay, Sylvia, no problem. So anybody else have anything, comments to make on that question? I like that question.
I have
I
one.
think I did too. Go ahead, Branson.
No, you go ahead. I'll follow you.
So we're really good in our court. They give you the framework, which is the way to do it. They say, this is what we need done. This is when we need it done. Here's a few steps that, we can't skip. And then they let you create your workflow because every human being's going to do it completely differently.
Yes.
And so, but they don't say do it. And then when you get to step 2, check in with me. And then when you get to step 3, check in with me. And then you get, they don't micromanage it. They just tell you, this is non-negotiable and this is when we need to get there. And then you draw your map on how you get there.
I think that's perfect. Perfect way to do it. Because that gives you some autonomy and it gives you some respect and you're still getting to where you need to get. We do things, none of us do the same thing the same way here. Like you said, we follow the certain protocols, but we just do things different because we're different people. So, Francine?
I guess the broad picture for me is rigidity, but effectively the lack of educating your people and developing your people. And really even in the course of day to day, it's do because I said so, but not really educating them. You're doing them a disservice because they don't understand the why. Once they understand the why, then people are more willing.
I agree. And I think that comes from the one that says fear, that they work out of fear. I've actually talked to administrators before that won't let their people get educated, and I think they're afraid somebody's gonna know more than they do. And that's threatening. I don't know where people find the time to micromanage. In my opinion, I've said this to my director, if you're micromanaging, then we don't need you, because obviously you got too much time on your hands. How are you doing all that micromanaging instead of your job?
Well, that becomes their job.
Yeah, I don't have time for that. When I was first got here, the administrator before me checked everybody's work. Every file they touched, they had to put in a basket on her desk. And the next day she'd go through every file. And it was like, why are y'all giving me your files?
Mhm.
So you can check them. Why? Don't you know how to do what you're supposed to do? Well, yeah, you're not gonna check them? No, I'm not gonna check them. I'll run a report. And if something's screwed up, we'll fix it. I'm not checking every dang file that comes through this office. That's crazy. Plus, I just want my people to understand that I respect and value their intelligence and their work product.
I think
To
that's
me,
the
if they're
lack of,
asking to check it all over, they don't trust that you know what you're doing.
exactly, that's what I was gonna say is, it could be just also lack of training. Um, they're not able to train them properly, or they may not even know the process themselves to be able to train others to do the work right. So it just shows lack of confidence in their own
I agree.
training.
In the accountability of everybody in here screws up, me as much as everyone else. I mean, it's like, oops, especially when I'm doing their stuff. I screw it up all the time. But that's okay. Oh wow, look at this. She says I worked for someone who had 3 monitors. She used 2 of them to watch us every day.
That is too much time on your hands.
That is too much.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's just crazy.
That's when
made
mistakes
my
start happening
coworkers
because
cry.
you're afraid you're gonna
Mhm.
mess up. And then when you're afraid, then you do.
And that ties back to emotional intelligence on that person didn't know herself well enough.
Yeah.
And that goes back to what Rosie said about confidence and fear. And you got to sit down and figure out who you are if you're doing that kind of stuff, because something in you is just not, or you're in the wrong place. You don't know yourself well enough to know that's the wrong place for you.
Ended up leaving, but I don't know the circumstances. I'm not sure, but
I mean, some people are pushed into managing or supervising when they shouldn't be, and they don't know how, and they don't have the skills for it, and they panic.
yeah, I kind of thought maybe it was partially because she was panicking and worried about how the court was being ran, because it's a large court. I'm not going to say
Yeah.
the name. And I don't really think she meant it the way it was happening, but it turned out to be a problem. And it would make people cry. Like
Oh my goodness.
cried about it. She said, I feel like I'm just being
You're crying at work.
stared
You
at.
can't find another
I
job.
said, well, just wave at her. Just keep doing your job.
You know what you gotta do.
You know? So,
List and describe. Number 73 is list and describe the 6 emotional leadership styles. I really liked this section. Trying to figure out where I am in here, and it changes. It's not the same every day. I thought that was kind of interesting.
and it can't be the same every day anyway because of the way the world changes.
Yeah, so it starts on page 43, and I'll tell you what they are, and then we'll talk about them. Visionary, coaching,
Coaching.
affiliated, democratic, pace setting, and commanding. Those are the 6. It starts on page 43. And I charge you when we're done here, if you haven't already, walk through those and see where you are most of the time. And then look at the different times where you have to be somewhere else. And just kind of do some emotional intelligence and figure out where you are and how you get where you need to get. Because I'll charge you and I'll believe that you're going to find out there are times you really got to jump into a commanding leadership style. It's not your thing. It's not your comfort zone. But there are times you just got to do it. It's just like, I don't want to, but I've got to get there because today I need this.
Pat, since I don't have the book, do you mind repeating those? I have visionary, coaching, democratic, and commanding.
You'll find them. They're on page 43 to 46 when you get an opportunity to read
Okay,
them.
I wrote that down. Okay, thank you.
When would you need to be visionary, do you think?
If you want to be inspiring, encouraging to your team, or like just to do better, or
Hey, Sylvia.
At our city where we always early in the year start talking about our strategic priorities. So I think that would be place to start
Mhm.
is if you have your
Agreed.
strategic priorities as a guideline. Be able
Has
to
anybody
see.
ever built a building or did a software conversion or?
Mhm.
Mhm.
I was
That's when you're
thinking
gonna-
more, I was
Mhm.
thinking more from the leadership's of building people.
Yes.
And
Right.
so I would think
new
the
people.
visionary side would be when you
Professional
have a lot of
growth.
new people and you're trying to grow them into
Mm,
what they're going to be, but they don't really know the job.
yes.
And Francine had talked to her earlier that she's got 3 new people starting at one time. That's a perfect time for visionary leadership. Share your mission and your vision and your goals. And this is
I
where,
think-
listen, care, let them know what the culture of your organization is. The big
think
thing on
that's-
this, one of the biggest messages in this book and something to think about when you're testing is culture and the importance of culture that you create. So how about coaching? When do you think that would come in handy? Do you have some stagnant people? Some button pusher people that you can see a whole lot of potential in?
Oh yeah.
I think sometimes that's a great place for coaching. When you got to catch them when they're ready. That's difficult. I think a change in leadership is often a good opportunity for coaching. Because I've changed twice, and sometimes you walk in and they're stagnant and they don't know it's okay with you if they're no longer stagnant. So I think you do a whole lot of coaching at that point to let them know what you think their potential is. Because they get,
Sometimes you can even
Uh-huh.
just say, hey, try this instead of this. Show or teach as you
Yes.
go and just be like, yeah, do what works for you.
the next leadership style is affiliative. That's just you're creating harmony. The example they give of affiliative is Southwest Airlines. That's like the happiest place, probably Disney. Well, no, I heard that Disney's not so fun behind the scenes. My daughter worked there for the college internship, and she called me about 2 days into it, and she said, "I just want you to know there is no magic behind the scenes." It's
Oh,
like
no.
these people are mean. It's like,
Oh, no.
So they use Southwest Airlines as an example of affiliative.
Oh, no.
They create harmony in their workplace. So it's hard. They say that one of the drawbacks, and that's something else you're going to know when you're studying these styles for testing purposes. You might need to know the drawbacks of these styles, not just what they are, but the drawback is of affiliative is that sometimes you get too emotionally involved and people think you're their friend. And then you have to discipline. And so just kind of be careful on any of these that you don't fall into the pitfalls. But when you're reading and taking notes, make sure that you jot down a pitfall of these, the goods and the bads of these styles. You might need to know that. All right, how about democratic leadership style?
I have focuses on collaboration and we seek input from our teams.
Focuses on teamwork and collaboration. Everything's a vote. I probably gear towards that one a lot. But I know when to pull it back in because the pitfall of democratic leadership is people's input. You've got to, if they're not playing the game, you can't work it that way. How many of you?
It causes decisions to be really, really slow.
Yes.
It's really slow, which is
Yes.
frustrating at times. It can be frustrating at times.
It can. And you just have to develop it enough that they know you really do want their input. Not just that you're giving it lip service, that, you really do want to know how you guys want to do this. So, I like that style, but I also know it can be trouble. Sometimes you've got too many people involved. If you have a big environment, that's just too many to try to make small decisions. So you have to be a little careful. All right, pace setting. This is not me at all. I'm not competitive. This is a competitive leadership style. I'm just not a competitive person. I don't, it's not how I function, but it's got some goods. I mean, you can get people to drive and motivate. Has anybody ever worked in that or used that kind of leadership style? This might not be the place for it.
I
I
used to work in
guarantee
a-
they use it in private industry.
Yes, they do. I used to work in a law firm where we'd sit in a huge conference room and each attorney would have to report all of the cases that they went through, and man, their numbers had to go up every Tuesday, not every month or 2 months or quarter. It's every Tuesday their numbers had to go up. And so that put pressure all the way,
Yes.
all the legal assistants and paralegals, and the drive, of course, was money. So it is a lot of pressure when you work in that way.
And you have to be the right person to thrive in that.
Mhm.
I
One of my
currently work
daughters-
at a police department, so
Oh yeah, you understand pace setting leadership.
do
Nothing, it's military style. It's
a lot.
Commanding,
Not
commanding.
Commanding is the
100%.
next one.
Not 100% with my boss. Thankfully, he's been in it 30 plus years, and he's told me that he's grown a lot since he was
good.
baby cop. But
And I think police departments are changing the same way as courts are, where they're becoming more understanding of the need to be a little softer. They're not getting there real fast, but they're getting there. It's like, well, they're getting there. So, but that's a definitely example of both pace setting and commanding. They're very competitive and they're also very authoritative.
mhm. There's a lot of competition between them.
Yeah, there is.
Among
I
them.
accidentally called a guy who got promoted to sergeant officer so-and-so, and he just acted like I killed his cat or something.
Yeah, I order their business cards and they're like,
Oh, you
I'm
are?
sergeant, I need new business cards like
You
today.
better get it right. I have a list now. I have them send me a list. Send me a list every time you promote people so I can call them the right initials. Stuff doesn't matter to me at all. So I forget that it's important to some people. Because I'm a very democratic leader. I just don't care where your little numbers is. I don't know who Samsung SM is, but when you get in, if you let me know. I've got you, Sylvia, so it's not you. All right. Does anybody want to deal with the next question? We kind of talked about these already. Visionary leaders do things, what they do well.
They listen, they care passionately, and they anticipate change.
Correct. What 3 things mark the leadership style of coaching?
I have collaboration, empowerment, and fulfillment.
Good. All that stuff's located. Each deal that we talk about style has got its own little oomph. So you should be able to answer these questions fairly easily. They're all bolded and it tells you the goods and bad of each style right in that paragraph. So it's good that you kind of run through those in your head for testing purposes. Plus, it's good to know those things. And we already talked about the downside of democratic leadership. We talked about those pretty good. Too many people, delays, complacency. So the dangers of pace setting are burnout, too competitive, and operate on overdrive till they're exhausted. She was talking about the attorneys, and that's just, my daughter's a lawyer and a baby lawyer, and her best friend from law school works for a very competitive hourly based firm, and that child's constantly exhausted. It's like, why do you do that? But she thrives on it. Whereas my daughter's a prosecutor, and if you made her work that hard, she would die. So it's just different styles. When can commanding leadership be effective? Page 57.
Crises and emergencies.
Definitely. Your EOC, your emergency occupation people are definitely going to run that commanding leadership style when necessary. So they get in there and you know who's boss immediately. Our emergency director, it doesn't matter. He's over the mayor, he's over the city manager, you know, immediately he's the boss. It's like, nobody questions it, because he just takes off with leadership and boom, it gets done. So, good answers. You guys are doing good. All right. Let's see here. Risks of commanding. Same kind of thing. Fear, no respect, my way or the highway. Somebody had said that earlier, that direct quote.
Yep.
We're going to start on a kind of new thing. What are the 3 foundational activities of emotional intelligence? Starting on page 63, talking about becoming an emotional leader. We talked about what they were and why we needed them. Now we're going to talk about how you get there. Answer to page number 80 is on page 63. Your goal setting, making time for personal development, and reflection to get to know yourself better. Those are the 3 foundations of becoming more emotionally intelligent. Setting goals. You know, no matter what you're studying, goal setting becomes part of the process, which I laugh because every single subject, it doesn't matter, from math to history to life, goal setting is part of the process. So goal setting, making time for professional development and personal development. How many of you have enough me time? I do now. 3 kids ago and all that stuff, I did not. Finally, I do. And it's an amazing thing. So, and then reflection, do a lot of reflecting. It's funny because I just updated my Apple yesterday, with whatever it is number they wanted me to update with. They now have a journal app that shows right on the front page when you update. I haven't looked at it yet, but I thought, oh, welcome to journaling, it says.
Yeah.
So Apple has added a journaling app. Right as soon as you upgrade, you'll get this journaling app on Apple. It's like, oh, okay, cool. Maybe that's a way to help me reflect. Not a big app person. I'm still write it in a notebook kind of person, but I thought, well, somebody's paying attention to emotional intelligence. Even Apple is paying attention. So. Okay, let's see where we are now. Okay, somebody read 81. It's kind of a quote. You guys have your questions?
You are going to lead others effectively. You need to have your own house in order. What 3 questions are essential to ask yourself to increase your emotional intelligence?
Do you have your house in order? And what does that mean to you?
Means that leading by example they were talking about earlier and being a servant leader. And you can't know your why and your direction, all the other things if you're doing things for your personal gain.
Right. That's exactly right. Your why, your direction, and the substance of things that matter to you. So page 67. Keep your own house in order. You know, the other one is people who live in glass houses shouldn't throw stones.
Right.
Those kind of things. I saw one the other day that said if at first you don't succeed, skydiving is not for you.
Right.
It was kind of funny. It's like, oh yeah, that's a good one. So
You don't get a second try at that one.
yeah, no. But I just thought it was funny. I thought, oh, that's a good adage. If at first you don't succeed, skydiving is not for you. But I look at these things and trying to find your own house in order. It's so much easier. And we talked about it earlier, Mitch, and you mentioned it's so much easier to judge from the outside to tell other people what they're doing wrong. So it's funny because I had to do 2 of my 3 status evaluations in the last month. And I actually sat down this time and thought, what do they think I'm going to say about them? What do they think about how I see them? Because I really wanted to get in their eyes and think, all right, what do they think I'm going to put on this paper? To try to figure out where they were coming from. Most people are harder on themselves than I am, but I just tried to figure out what I was doing that might be hindering them. anything I got to that I thought could need improvement, I thought, well, did I help them improve this? Did I offer them what was necessary to improve this before I even put down that they maybe need to improve it? I really wanted to see what my role in that was.
Do you ever let them do self-evaluations?
Yeah, we don't do them. I would love to. I usually send them before evaluate, but every 3 months I do a goal review and I
Mhm.
send them their goals and say, hey, where are we and what can I do to help you get there? So every 3 months I just send their annual goals, just an email, say, hey, just goal review time. Where are you? Am I doing anything to help or hinder you from getting there? And what are our next steps? Just so I make sure they keep aware of what those goals are, because I hate doing annual evaluations and on 12 months and 30 days, you're going, you didn't do this. You were
Mm.
supposed to do this last year and you didn't. It's like, oh yeah, I forgot I was supposed to do that. So we try to go over goals at least quarterly. And I do take it on myself and say, where can I help you get there? I want you to get there. What can I help you with? So it's just, I think that's fair. And that's putting my house in order where I know they function based on me. What's a mission statement and what 3 things does it establish? We just talked about the exact same things. The house in order is also your mission statement. Your why, your direction, and the reason you're doing what you're doing. And they're going to vary from department. Does your department have its own, or you just have the cities, or any of those things? Describe a transforming leader. Page 71.
Someone who builds relationships inside and outside the organization
Good.
and knows that driving change and actions requires relationship capital.
Perfect. I love that word, relationship capital. And in a private industry, it's not as important to use those words because we know that. But I wish private industry would understand that relationships and capital can be the same thing. That's all we have. I mean, I'm 96% staff in my budget, so it's like all I have is personal capital. So if you're looking at the value of your business, the value of our business is 96% people. Well, I mean, I have some forms, I have some paper, I have some pens, I have, I have that stupid little stuff, but 96% of my budget's people oriented. So of course they're your capital. That's your worth. And I think we need to spend more time understanding that. So a transforming leader gets really good at that. And I like what you said, Mitch, and I like what the book says about inside and outside. Forging relationships with other people also. Especially people that you work with that you don't work with every day. Your leaders. It's very important. Autonomy makes leaders. Yeah. 100% agree. Autonomy makes leaders. And it's extremely important that you let your higher ups, I'm deputy director, my director and my city manager know how I treat my people. Because I want them to know that. Hoping maybe they'll catch on. Or also knowing that that's where we value. I'm very fortunate to work to a city that understands their human capital. So I don't have a lot of problems. But I've worked for cities that do not. So what are some common challenges to becoming an emotionally intelligent leader? Page 76. This should lead to some good discussion.
Well, I don't have the book, but I would say that some of it has to do with the fact that it is hard to look inward to see if you need to change.
It is hard to change.
Most people don't want to look at that and see that they need to do something to make a difference. So, like you said earlier, so.
Good.
It looks like you're weak. It looks
Right.
like maybe your people are taking advantage of you and you can't make decisions when you're taking input.
That is a perfect example. My chief, well, he's gone now. He got ill and had to resign, but he just couldn't understand why we're nice people. Just couldn't get it. It's like, just never could. And it's like, I am not weak. I'm just getting what I need done in a different way than you do. Getting the same results, just in a very different way than you do. So, and the other thing is you have to reveal a lot of your personal self. It's like she said, it's hard sometimes. I want them to know me, but I don't want them to overly know me. You know what I mean? My personal professional self. I said that to somebody once. There's my personal self and there's my personal professional self that are very different.
Mhm.
But I can let you know me in a professional world on a personal level, but it's not the same as my personal level.
That's a hard thing to do, I think.
It's very hard, especially in smaller environments.
Mhm. There's only 4 of us here.
Yeah, and in social media, I don't have anybody in this entire city on my Facebook. Entire city, nobody.
Smart.
Just not necessary. I like to keep things separate. Not just my staff. I think it's wrong to have your staff on, but I don't have anybody in the whole city. Just out of personal preference. Because I do get personal, I do care, and we care about one another, and we know each other's really deep problem issues. But there's personal things. You just can't behave all the time. Sometimes you just gotta let go. So anyway, so that's just something to think about. You do have to reveal a lot of yourself, but Mitch's point was the biggest. They see you as weak if they see you giving in too much. And it's very hard when you have competitive staff. Why did she get to do that? Why didn't I get to do that? We have a big deal. I always at Christmas, I always put out an email that says, if your kids have any Christmas functions, stone soup, concerts, go dress like a reindeer, whatever, let me know. And you were going to it. And I have people with no kids were like, that's really not fair. I don't get to go. Okay, would you like to go put a reindeer hat on and eat stone soup at the kindergarten? I'm sure we'll find you one. And so it's very hard with people who are, I don't know if competitive is the right word or just picky, jealous of everyone else. It's very hard to have that kind of leadership with them. You know, I had somebody working with me who was doing elder care for a parent, and she did miss a lot of work. If I had to do elder care with a parent, I would want somebody to be understanding that I had to miss a lot of work. Because when her dad called, who was a little messed up in the head, it wasn't FMLA because he wasn't sick, but there would be times he called and somebody was out to get him or something. And it was like, go make sure he's okay. Just come back when he realizes, there's nobody in the house, those kind of things. So I think they see it as weakness, whereas it's not, it's just being human. So, all right. I like these. List some examples of regressive behavior. Regressive means you're kind of going backwards.
I've always been told, you know how good your systems are when the pressure starts. It's one thing to have a system and all that, but when somebody's sick and city manager or somebody's calling and they're applying pressure and the power's out or encode goes down, and then how do your processes work when, all that gets leaped on top? Because usually you'll revert back to whatever you did before, which is just shut up and do what I told you to do, and whatever your style was before.
That's such a good point. And that's when leadership becomes crucial. That's when you got to stay even keeled because everybody else is going to get as stressed as you are.
That's why I think it's important to learn your triggers.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And acknowledge, and work on it. That's what I mean.
I don't stress much. I only stress things I can control. Believe me, it took me 50 years to get there, but so I now only stress things that I can control. And I have somebody who works here that stresses everything. It's like, you're stressing stuff I should be stressing if I thought they were stressable. Chill it. It's my job. I'll figure it out.
I had to go through 3 years of grief therapy to get where I'm at.
Yeah, I mean, it took me 50 years to realize I can't fix everything. If I can't fix it, I'm not stressing it. It's not my job, man. And those of you who are young, remember that. Get there earlier. It took me forever. So yeah, that's a perfect point. When the heat is on, that's when you get things. That's when it says first one, forgetting everything you know is right. Because the pressure's on and you're just reacting. And don't get me wrong, I do. There are times I'm just like, get out of my way and let me figure this out. They know if I go in my office, don't follow me under any circumstances, because I'm not responsible for what happens if you follow me in my office. So, and then hiring or firing or promoting on a whim. That's another one that they call is regression. I don't promote based on longevity, which caused some problems years ago because I promoted somebody to senior clerk that hadn't been here the longest. She just had the best skills. So that if I had regressed and wasn't as aware, I would have done the longevity thing just to keep peace. Same things that are, other things, giving yourself credit, no blame. And then when you think that you've gotten there, when you think you've become emotionally intelligent, you give up working on yourself. It's an everyday process. There's no end to becoming emotionally intelligent. So one of the things they talk about is regression, that where you think, well, I'm done with that. I already figured out who I am. Let me ask you guys, not ahead or anything else, everybody can answer this. Are you the same person every day? I'm not. It depends on what's going on and who I am and why I'm mad at somebody or what's going on. Or I laugh because my daughter bought me a happy lamp. I have seasonal affect disorder. So she bought me this lamp and I turned it on this morning because it was so gloomy, ugly out. And it actually worked. And it's the first time I turned it on since Christmas. She got it for me for Christmas. And I was like, oh, because they will let me know out there if I'm not in a good mood because it's gloomy outside. So today wasn't a good day. I didn't want to do this. I had to turn the lamp on. She calls it my bitch lamp, but I didn't say that out loud. I'm on recording. Sorry. Yeah. Mama, look what I got you for Christmas. Just gonna make you nicer. Okay. We'll see how that works.
I have a friend that needs one. I'm glad you mentioned it. She asked
They
me.
really did. I didn't think
about
they would
that
work.
yesterday.
I mean, I take vitamin D,
Mhm.
prescription vitamin D and everything, and I just have it. There's nothing you can do. But the lamp works. I was kind of surprised. I was resistant to using it. Today was the first day I used it, and I thought, I felt better. Maybe I just felt better because I thought I was supposed to. So it might be nothing other than my head thinks the lamp's supposed to work, so the lamp's supposed to work, but I don't really care. It worked.
But it worked.
I'm here visiting with y'all when I didn't want to be. So, and I'm enjoying it. So there. To thwart regressive behavior, you must play offense and defense. List some playing offense activities and then some playing defense activities. And they're on like page 79 and 80. Offense and defense for those of you in a football world. And the Texans are still there, but the Cowboys are not. Sorry.
Yay. Sorry.
Okay, at least it's a Texas team, so that's good.
Hey, look, we gotta have a good break sometime or other.
I'm off for Houston.
So offense and defense, what's playing offense? We're doing it right now. You guys are playing emotional intelligence offense. What are you doing?
Meditation.
Yeah.
Preparation, talking about it.
Networking. You're
Networking.
learning, you're taking courses, you're taking every advantage of things offered to you. You're 100% there on becoming offensively emotionally intelligent. And those of us who are older, and there's not that many of you out here, we weren't taught to believe it was okay to think about yourself and how to make yourself better. That wasn't what we were taught when we were growing up. Quit worrying about yourself. Quit being like stingy and quit being selfish. And
Right.
so if I had said
somebody else. Think
Right.
about somebody else for a while.
right.
Yeah.
And, I said I'm a licensed therapist and I did therapy for years at Catholic Charities. And when I first got the job, I was telling my dad, and he said, "Don't those people have any friends?" Well, no, they kind of need a therapist. You mean they pay you to just sit around and talk to them? Can't they just go to the bar? Hey, Dad, this is a little different because we didn't believe in things like this where you could care about, figure yourself out. There was nothing to figure out. You just were what you were.
Yep.
So those of you who are older probably understand that philosophy because it was a different world back then with our parents. And yeah, to the day he died, no one understood why people paid me to come talk to me. So
I went to physical therapy this morning and I was talking to somebody in their 30s and I'm 55. And he was asking me about pain and I'll shorten it and just say, he was like, you know, does this hurt? Blah, blah, blah. What's the level? And I was like, I don't know. I have RA. So I hurt all the time. I can't give you a number. Sometimes it hurts. Sometimes it doesn't.
buck it up, buck it
I
up.
said,
That
when I was
my
growing
focus.
up, my mom just said, I don't want to hear about it. Just
Yeah.
move on. So
We wanted.
I don't know. So anyway.
Yeah. And it's just generational. And luckily we're at a place now where we understand what we do and who we are affects everybody else. We didn't know, they didn't know that back then.
Very
You know,
true.
how many of your parents said horrible things to you when you were a kid when they were mad at you about something? I mean, they just would say, oh my God, you're being so stupid or something. Now it's like, you say that to a kid, their psyche is devastated for life. So I'm like,
Yeah,
okay.
there needs to be a middle, happy middle.
Different world, which has goods and bads. So what about defense? How do you defensively become emotionally intelligent?
I think you have to inventory the things that aren't helpful for you or distract you or,
Perfect.
you know, and sometimes you just don't see them. That started with the first question you ask us, like, what was difficult about analyzing yourself is because you don't even sometimes see it as a problem.
Yeah. The hardest thing you can do is ask a significant other what
That's
they
what I was
think
gonna.
your
That's what I was
issues are
gonna
with being
say.
emotionally intelligent.
Yeah.
Be
'cause
ready though, don't get in a fight.
Yeah, if you can't see it.
You start it with, and then I'm gonna do yours, so be careful. How can you trust? Maybe a best friend instead of a significant other, but it's hard because you got to get rid of those defensive behaviors, self-destructive thinking, like Mitch said, eliminate time wasters, and then negative activities. How many, and we still continue to do stuff we don't want to do. That doesn't have to be done,
Mhm.
but we think we have to do it.
Yeah.
Like every December until this last one, I cleaned out my desk drawers for 22 years. I've cleaned out my desk drawers in December when we were a little slow. I did not clean out my desk drawers this year. It's like, they're a mess. I don't care. They're gonna be a mess in January anyway. So everybody's like, your desk drawers didn't get cleaned out. I know. I'm trying to be okay with it. I'll be cleaning them for weeks.
I'm
It's
gonna give you
driving
a
me
pat.
nuts.
I'm patting you on the back because I know how hard it is to break those.
Because you just throw stuff in there. So, all right, let's see, where are we? Another way to thwart regressive behavior is to take the feed forward approach. What is the feed forward approach? And it's on 81. Feed forward. Ah, that makes sense. Tell people, feed it forward, let people know. How much better are you at doing something if you told somebody you're going to do it? I don't break commitments. If I know I really don't want to do something, but I might, if I say I'm going, it's going to kill me. And I know I said I was gonna, and that's all there is to it. It's like, I don't, so feed forward just means if you make it verbal, it says, you know, tell everybody, you know, describe your goal clearly and tell people you're going to do it. That you're more likely to do it if you have that. And then ask for 2 suggestions and ask for encouraging ideas. We are all very much overachievers, type A's. If we ask somebody for help and they help us and we don't follow through, we're going to feel guilty. It's like, but they're trying to help me and I just like didn't take their advice. Now they're mad, or I feel bad because I asked them to do something they didn't. And then this is very hard for all of us. I'll guarantee everybody on here. Respond with thank you, nothing more. How many of you been complimented and come up with some but?
Most
Oh,
of
that's
them
really
are.
good. Well,
Oh, yeah.
I got it on sale, or
Yes.
Mhm.
just thank you. Just thank you.
Someone told me that about a year ago. Every
Yeah.
time I would get a compliment, instead of saying thank you, I always had something else to say. And they said that, why can't you just say thank you? And I said, I don't know.
You just grow up
I
that
think
way.
yeah, I was just taught by my mother.
No buts after thank you.
Yeah.
I went to a law enforcement for women leadership conference a few months ago. And that was something they said is get rid of your butts.
Yeah, get rid of your butts.
Let go of the butts.
So those are things that you can do to make sure you're not regressing. There's no, people want to compliment you, let them. Say thank you and walk away or whatever. All right, let's see where we are. You have to stay in a constantly self-improving mindset is what it says. So every time you got that, and it's hard if you're getting that negative feedback that you give yourself, that you give yourself more than anybody else would ever dare to give you. You got to remind yourself that that's not fair. One of my really good friends used to tell me all the time, he always used to say, you need to be your own best friend.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'd say, what do you mean? He's like, would you say what you just said to yourself to someone else that you cared about?
Yeah.
Would you ever talk to somebody else the way you talk to yourself?
Yeah.
We're our own worst enemy instead of our own best friend a lot of the times. So I have to remember that sometimes when my mind starts going, it's like, would I say this to my friend? If I wouldn't, why would I say it to myself? All right. How do emotionally intelligent leaders view the culture in their organization? Now we've moved down to the third part. How to make you emotionally intelligent, what it is, how to make you emotionally intelligent, now how it's going to work in the rest of your organization. And that starts on like page 89. What's the value of culture in your organization?
Culture drives everything. So
100%. They
you don't have a
describe it
good,
in the
you don't
book
have a
as
good, you don't have a good culture. Nothing's, I don't say nothing, but almost everything else is impossible.
I agree. They describe it in the book as the lifeblood. The life. And we have other departments coming over and it's like, we just like to come out and hang over here. Because it's just positive. It's like, okay, we got a lot of work to do. You're more than welcome to sit here. Take in the energy if you want, but we avoid going to City Hall. Not that we don't have a wonderful city, but those women over, those people over there are just all the time. Like, finance people. I love them to death, but they're just not the most personal people in the world. They're
Yeah,
stressing.
here we actually have a committee for building morale, so that we
cool.
make sure we have a good morale here.
Well, that's
with
cool.
different events, yeah.
It's a good deal. See, they value their culture.
Mm-hmm.
What are 4 phases to turn your vision of an emotionally intelligent organization into reality? Page 95. How do you make this all happen? How do you turn it into reality?
I like the first one that they mentioned, that's establish the basics to determine your desired standards. So basically setting a baseline so that everybody agrees on it and knows what it looks like.
100% agree. Every year I go over it. You sign it when you first get here. It's called an office standards policy. And it's not a list of rules really, it's a list of expectations. So that my staff understands these are the office standards. These are the standards that I expect us to live up to. And then every time I get somebody new, everybody has to read it and sign off on it. Just kind of as a reminder, this is what we're holding this person to. Just because you've been here a while and got complacent doesn't mean I'm not holding you to it also. So we
Call that a social contract.
Yes. Cool. Establish basic standards. And this is focus on your people. That's the other way to turn your vision into reality. But we're all good at that one, I think. And then communicate. I never could understand. I worked for cities for a long time. Understand why, like, the administration thinks some things are secret. Like something will happen and everybody knows, but nobody will say anything. And you're like, the rumor mill's going a mile a minute. Why don't you just spit it out? Something, it's just like somebody will give notice or something and they don't want anybody to know. It's like they're going to notice when they aren't here anymore. God help us, somebody get terminated. I know we don't have any right to know what happened, but could you say so-and-so is no longer here?
We have a
And when
very small town and that has happened recently and they never sent anything to any employees. And there's only 20 of us and they didn't say anything. They just put it in the paper.
I go to council meetings every month and then I come back and tell my staff what happened at council meetings every month. It's like, just in case you were wondering where we're at, because they don't communicate to the frontline people. And
when
maybe
the-
they don't want to know, and part of it's their problem. They don't ask, but.
Yeah, but when the lack of communication is so severe and you know that there's something that needs to be communicated, but it has occurred so many times, I find myself sitting back and thinking they're not going to be accountable if you mention to somebody to keep that communication line. You're not helping the situation. If the communication needs to be shared, you're not helping the matter by sharing it if it's supposed to be coming from somewhere else. So
Correct.
you just sit back and you watch it all like implode in a manner of speaking. I mean, you don't want it to, but sometimes you have to, because sometimes you have to get them to see themselves the importance of communication.
I
And
agree.
like you said, whether somebody's terminated or not, we don't have the right to know why, but we do need to know they're gone because
Yes.
they may intertwine with some of our
And we
jobs.
need to know they're gone in a way that we probably shouldn't share things with them.
Exactly.
You know, we need to know not just
Right.
that they're gone. It's like, but if they
Right.
call you and ask questions, you might not want to share that, you know?
Right.
Because they might be somebody you interacted with. And if they just tell me they're gone, I think, oh, they went for another city and they have questions.
Yeah,
Then you end up in the middle of a city lawsuit because you had no idea that you said the wrong thing to the wrong person.
exactly.
We had that with an HR person that got fired, and her and I were semi-close, and she calls and asking stuff, and I'm thinking, this is weird.
Yeah.
Those are things she should know. So then I call over there and it's like, oh no, don't talk to her. Well, why didn't someone tell me?
Right. Sorry.
Unfortunately, in this city, we have a huge rumor mill presence, like a lot of you probably have. And people on Friends of Friends would, or whatever that Facebook thing's called, know it way before we do sometimes.
Yeah.
And I'm on those sites, even though I don't live here, but I don't ever get on those sites. So nobody knows I'm on those sites. Because I want to hear what's going on, like what their perception of what's going on, which is just as important. So I think if they communicated clearly, you know, there's times that there's been lawsuits in the city about employees suing the city for something or somebody else, or we just need to be aware.
Right.
You know, we don't need the nitty gritty details, but to keep the organization and the culture positive, at least let us know what's off base and on base.
Yeah.
All right. What are some obstacles that every leader faces?
Resistance.
Resistance to change.
Yeah.
I have conflict and communication problems.
Yes, communication problems. Stagnation, we talked about that earlier. Some people just get stuck in a hole. Two problems with stagnation. I have a hard time accepting that you're okay being in that hole, or you have a hard time accepting you're in that hole. It's very difficult for me to watch somebody I know with potential not use it. But then sometimes I realize that's I gotta let it go. I gotta get emotionally intelligent enough to go, that is not my fault. I can't fix that.
It's that vicious
think-
circle though. If you do that and you're, you know, we talked about democratic and getting the
Yes.
apathy, then that causes the stagnation, which then causes the willingness to change to go
Yes.
down. I mean, it's like a vicious, if you allow them to stay that way, or if they fit in your organization and they're allowed to just kind of hang at the bottom, then when you do a change, they're the first ones to go, well, we've always done it that way, and that's
Yes.
nothing's broken. Let's not, you know, let's
I
not
hate that
let's not
term.
change. Let's not
Right.
change anything. That's hard work, and it viciously just continues, which then lowers, you know, everything then goes down continually. So it's one where you can't really allow them to
I know.
do that.
And when it says stagnation is the biggest obstacle, it is for me. It is my biggest obstacle.
And sometimes that group will tell you, I just want somebody to tell me what to do, which if you
Yes, I
don't,
can't. I
they
can't
they
handle
like
it.
that, direct method. They like the what do we call it? Not
Like
command.
commanding leadership.
Yeah, they
Commanding
like that.
leadership.
Yeah, because they don't have to think. You know, I
God,
was
I
told
hate
to do this, so I'll do it.
Drives
And
me
either,
nuts.
yeah, but if you don't do that, then the stagnation causes. Then when you want to change, you want to do something big. They're the first ones to say, "Yeah, I'm not doing that," and they cause sabotage to go on
Oh, I
through the whole
know.
organization.
And a
So
rift
And
in
they
the
have to
whole,
leave.
yeah.
right, yeah,
Well, a lot of
then
people,
you're
they
then you're
just
into the hiring and firing part again.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I'm an expert at getting people to leave on their own, though. I very seldom find people, but
that's
High five to you. I
I'm
wish-
real good at making them think they don't want to work here anymore.
right.
Which is okay. But I can deal with people better who are limited in skills, but give their whole heart.
Right.
And people that are very proficient but don't want to give anything. So that's where my issue
And
is.
give the minimal and go home happy about it.
Some people, this is just a job, just not for me. So it's like, how is this just a job for you?
It doesn't matter what
Mhm.
job you do. If you just give the
No.
minimal and you're happy about that, and you go
Well, we
home, and then
can't.
you come back and you give the minimal and you're happy about that, and then you go
Yes,
home,
no. My daddy
you
used
hurt
to tell
everybody
us,
around you.
I don't care if you sweep floors for a living, those better be the damn cleanest floors I've ever
Mhm.
seen. Yes,
Well,
sir.
so while you work, if you're gonna do it,
Yes,
yeah.
sir.
You mentioned Southwest a couple times, and one of their main mottos was hire for attitude, train for skill.
Again,
I love it. It's good.
They don't really care what your skill is. They hire people based on what they are and how they will work and how they get along with people. And then they basically can teach anybody to punch the buttons and mail the letters and, you know, push the carts. I mean, there's some things like pilots and other
yes,
things that
well,
have to
yeah.
have training, but for the most part, if you look at their organization, hardly any of their finance people are finance
I
trained.
agree.
So,
I can
and
find a
our
spot. for
our profession specifically, that applies huge, because
100%.
most of what we do can be trained, if
Yeah.
not
It's
all of
easy
it.
to take a blank page and mold it.
And I
Yes,
can find a spot for everybody.
that's right.
I got something for you. But don't give me don't be out running out the door at 5:31. Because I'm not gonna be happy with you. So, all right. What are 4 criteria to avoid obstacles that stand in the way of your successful organization? Page 103. I like these. I like these a lot.
Mhm.
Stop making excuses.
Stop making excuses. Take initiative. The buck stops here. That's like my favorite old saying. Own it. It's on you. It's on you. And then celebrate victories. Celebrate victories. Very important. Very important. I never leave here without telling them they did a great job today. So last thing I say on my way out the door, thanks guys, we did a great job today. I'm real proud of you. Every day. Every day.
I think
I
the
am.
own it
Every
own
day,
it
Nate.
is the
Mhm.
one thing that you don't see enough of. Own it. And our jobs with citations and such, that's the biggest issue, is they just they won't own it. There's a lady
Yes.
in our city that got a ticket, and she's got a lot of voice in the city. She got a ticket for 92 and a 70, and she said, well, I know I wasn't going more than 85, but was
And a
85
70?
more than 70?
Thank you. That sounds
Was
like a pretty guilty.
76
Let's
more
move
than a
on.
70? Yeah, we're arguing about this wine. It's $25 difference.
Yeah.
You know, own it. Take care of it. Put
They'll
it behind
say,
you.
I never speed. That's what they say.
Oh, I do all the time. I'll be the
But
first one.
I'll say, well, I do.
When I get a ticket, I know I got it. I know I earned it.
You earned it.
I did. You slowed me down. I was on a good pace. Yeah, just remember, just establish, and I think it's just huge. You focus on your people, you communicate, you let them know we are victorious. We've accomplished stuff that, even if it's nothing. I mean, I walk out of here every day because they did good work today. They did nothing special happened, maybe nothing earth-shattering, but they did good work today. Something earth-shattering and horrible could have happened if they didn't do good work today. So it's like, Thank you, Lynn. Thanks, guys. We're good. We made it through another one. So, leading an organization, department, division, or even a small unit requires adjustments. Making adjustments is about gaining an understanding of which of the 4 key areas. If you don't get at least the first one right. People, always number 1. He used to have a big thing on the wall that said, before they repainted, that said people before paper. Because people drove me crazy when they'd worry about the paperwork when there's somebody standing there. Like people before paper, always. Customers. Number 2, customers, deep understanding of customers, the deep understanding of your strategy, and the deep understanding of your culture. Those 4 things are essential to making you a success. People, customer, strategy, and culture. How do you sustain change in your organization? Some of these are just top of your head. You don't even have to read the book. Common
Patience,
sense. How do you sustain change?
Did you just have to
patience
communicate?
and an open mind.
Open
I don't
mind.
know if that's in the book, but yeah.
It's okay.
patience
Open
and have an
mind.
open mind.
Consistency.
Mhm.
Consistency. You gotta be consistent. You don't have to be the same,
Mhm.
but you gotta be consistent. Commitment. Momentum. Empathy. Encouragement. Respect and connection. Those are all the things you need to keep it going after you get it. You gotta stay on top of it. Roadblocks to change center around which 2 areas? What gets in the way? Somebody mentioned it earlier, like a huge one.
Communication.
Communication. Did you ever change anything without remembering to tell people you were going to do it? I have a tendency to play with macros. And I forget to tell them I did something. And then they'll be like, it's like, oh, I was playing with that. Sorry. If it didn't work, let me know. I'll put it back. So just little things, communication and resources. Training costs money.
Mhm.
And I would tell y'all there's nothing more important in your budget.
Costs money and costs time.
It does cost time. And for small organizations, the time is even more important than the money. You can't close down. You know, we have the luxury of having 4 of us. So, but I feel sorry for the 1 and 2 man people that you can't just shut everything down so you can go somewhere. But there should be at least once or twice a year they know you have to go and they'll allow you to get out. So, all right, I'm just trying to make sure we get through this before time. This has been a good session. What are 2 things compromise the secret of most successful leaders in all industries?
Detail and adaptability.
Yep. Attention to detail and ability to adapt to change. I'm pretty good at one, not so great at the other. But I have somebody that works for me that's extremely good at the one I'm not.
That's probably the other key they didn't talk about very much, is making sure you hire people that are
Yes.
not your mirror, but
Correct.
the opposite.
That's in one
People
of the
hire their
books.
mirrors a lot and then they're shocked when there's big deficits.
I don't need another me. I don't think I could stand another me.
Yes.
But God, that would be crazy around here. But my senior is so proficient in everything I hate. Like, oh, thank you. And so that's, I think, a big one. It's in another one of the leadership books, luckily, because that's so important. I am not a detail-oriented person. I get too much going on in my head and ADD goes on. But man, I can adapt to change like nobody's business. Where she can do, she's just good. I'm just lucky. We've worked together for 10 years, so. I took a chance and it was the smart chance to take, which is another thing you talked about earlier, hiring people just on a feeling.
Mhm.
It's like, we'd be a good team. I don't know why, I just felt it. And I know within 5 minutes if I'm hiring somebody or not. I'm wasting their time to give them the other 30, 40 minutes of an interview. Hate to admit, but I don't want to be embarrassing. Say, no, I'm done with you. 5 minutes, you're out. what I honestly know within 5 minutes. What are some steps to follow to get back on track when you have setbacks? Page 124. Easy stuff. Just think, it's even common sense. Revisit the basics. You know, when things are screwing up, you just get back to basics. When somebody's messing up, you just get back to basics. I've retrained people numerous times. It's like, whoop, we're going to start over at score air one. Storytelling, excuses, or just use success examples. All right, guys, we're screwing up. This isn't working. This is what works. Look at this. Like I use Southwest, or they use some sports teams and things. Check the pulse. What's going on? That just means check, not physically, but what's going on with people? If things aren't working, check the pulse of your staff. Kind of check in and say, okay, we got a little sickness here and I'm trying to figure out where it is. Communicate again, early and often. And again, define the results and solutions you're looking for. You can't get to a target if you don't know what the target looks like. You gotta know where you want to be in order to get there. So when things are starting to look ugly, or that's what I say, we have what I call come to Jesus meetings every once in a while. I'll just pull a staff meeting and say, things just don't feel good here. Are you guys feeling it, or just me? Because it just feels ugly here the last couple weeks. And usually they're like, It's like, okay, checking my pulse and getting in and communicating. It's like, what's making us ugly? And I always say us. I never say them. Might be me. Probably is. So, anybody have any questions, comments? Do you like this book? Anybody that's read the other? I love this book so much better than the other one.
Better.
Because I can use this one. The other one was all scientific, a lot of scientific based in how you measure things and all that. And this one, I'm like, I can do these things for me. Tell me what your goal plans are for level 3. A couple of you are going to the assessment clinic. You'll know more what your plan is after that. Where are you, Rosie?
So I passed A, and I need to get B and C scheduled. But I wanted to attend a few of the
Just keep it
sessions.
up.
Thank
Keep
you.
plugging in there. We're at 143, I think now. So
Yep.
if anybody wants to be within 150, just a thought, or at least within the first 200. I never thought we'd hit 100. And then everybody just like went gangbusters. I'm number 24 from way back when, and it was harder. Let me tell you right now.
We didn't have the resources back then.
Well, you had to take the whole thing at once. You couldn't take it in parts. If you failed it, you had to take it all over.
I couldn't leave my court to go.
We're 17 books. I think the best move we ever made as education committee is let you take it in parts. So you could read one section at a time and concentrate on passing that section before you moved on to the X, or making so you can only retake a part if you're unsuccessful. You don't have to retake all 3 parts. That's been helpful. Don't take too much time though, because if you let it linger, you'll let it linger.
Pat, are you the one that I talked to? And I'm sorry, I've lost track. About mentorship. I think it's
Tracy Ventura is my mentor coordinator.
Yeah.
So has she gotten hold of you?
We talked a little bit, and I
Okay.
told her I was
Get
going to
her
reach out to
again.
someone local, and that person isn't. She said she would chat with me, but she's not available to do
Okay,
it.
get her again. Get with Tracy again. See if she can find you somebody else. We have mentors that will help you through the process, that have already been through the process. We try to pick somebody in your local area, if possible. If not, they might be a little outside your area. But if anybody wants to ask questions about that, just hit me up and I'll see if I can find you somebody.
But I want to say thank you to Mitch, because he shared the Google.
Doc.
Yeah, sorry, I can't think. The Google Docs with me
You're
so
welcome.
that I could read along, and it was very helpful. And I appreciate
Cool.
it very
You're
much.
welcome.
I
Very
was
nice.
wondering, I was looking at that. I was like, where's
We're a
Sammy?
village.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We
he
are a
shared it with
village.
me, so I was able to understand.
I'm
what-
just looking forward to every one of you. And you know, when you get your level 3, we go to your council and do this huge presentation and member of the education committee comes and we had a council meeting, and I got to go to Longview last week and do it for Kirby Hewitt and educate them while I was there. And now they're going to allow, I know they're going to pay for staff to go to things and stuff. So
Good.